Hello everyone, Brandon here with Enduro e-bikes Canada, and today we're unboxing our 3000 watt Enduro e-bike in white and gold. This bike's equipped with a Moto seat as well as the 750cc display, making it unique from the other bikes that we've already unboxed. In this video, we're going to show you how to remove the bike from the packaging, as well as initially set it up and configure it before your first ride. Without wasting any more time, guys, let's open up the box and see what's inside. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is grab yourself a box cutter and zip tie cutter. It goes without saying, unless you like the bloodstain look, you should be careful not to hack through the packaging like a madman. I know it's exciting, but you don't want to injure yourself, or even worse, scratch your brand new bike. Once you've broken through the seal, you can start freeing up your bike's components, like these awesome gold rims. Yeah, that's the ticket. With so many things to unwrap though, try not to lose sight of where everything is. As the author A.A. Milne once said, organizing is something you do before you do something, so that when you do it, it's not all mixed up. For instance, here you have your 6.5 amp hour 84 volt battery charger. And if you lose sight of that, the AC power cord or any other accessories, you'll be going nowhere anytime soon. It's also important to make sure the charger is set to your country's specific power voltage. Check out this beauty of a front fork. We're big fans of the white and gold look, but of course, you can customize your bike the way you want. This one has the base model shock absorber, but it gets the job done. The front headset is already installed along with the front light bracket, ready to receive the 12 volt LED front headlight. Now let's unbox the Moto seat, taking care not to slice it in half before it's onto the packaging. As long as you manage that, you can see and feel how comfortable it's going to be while riding. It'd be pretty useless without the Moto seat frame bracket, however, so thankfully that's included too. It has a nice grab handle on the back, and you can see where the rear light will be mounted later. Attached underneath is the mounting bracket. You'll need that for the light too, so don't lose it. Here we have the pedals, an essential part of any bike, even e-bikes, assuming you want to move around. These are the stock pedals, which are fine, but since you can request additional custom pedals, we thought we'd get some fancy gold ones for some added bling. And here's the front headlight, which as you can see will mount to the front light bracket as we mentioned earlier. Once you've unboxed everything and put the components neatly aside, the next step is to clear some room so you've got enough space to move the bike around and start working on your build. Now you can go ahead and unwrap the handlebar, along with the attached horn and front brake caliper, keeping an eye out for the sneaky mounting screws too, which can come in a separate bag. In keeping with our Midas theme, we've applied our golden touch again and requested a custom gold handlebar. If you're suffering from FOMO and want to be just as stylish, feel free to contact a sales rep to request any colored accessories that aren't listed on our website, and they'd be more than happy to add it to your build. Before you do anything else though, unscrew your bike's side panels, which you should be able to do by hand, or you can use an 18mm 12-point socket if you need to. As you can see, some of the screws can be a little tight. Luckily for you, a toolkit is included that contains all the tools you'll need to assemble your bike. After removing the nuts and bolts from the seat frame bracket too, position the seat frame as shown and insert the 4 bolts back into the corresponding holes. The washers and nuts go on the inside of the bike and are screwed into place like so. Then you can tighten the nuts and bolts using a 13mm wrench. With the seat frame in place, it's time to affix the Moto seat and the rear light. Again, you'll need to unscrew these bolts in preparation. Then it's just a case of using the light bracket you put aside earlier, along with some of the washers and your trusty wrench to put it together as shown. The seat and tail light need to go on at the same time, with the seat sliding into the square brackets and the light mounting behind it like so. It's a little bit fiddly, but what fun would it be if you didn't have to work for it? Now tighten up those nuts and make sure your light is even. Connect the lighting connectors by lining up the single slotted tabs. Once the connection is made, screw the locking part of the connector together to secure it. Now you're really getting to grips with your e-bike. How about getting your front fork on? By which I mean it's time to install the front fork. First, you'll need to remove the fork's center screw before loosening these screws at the side. Next, remove the headset along with the headset spacers, which should easily slide right off. Now remove the top crossbar. loosening it beforehand as necessary. Slide off the parts as shown, then carefully cut away the zip ties from the front part of the frame, holding the bearings in place. Prior to sliding the front fork stem through the frame, it's essential that you install these metal ring spacers into the top of the upper headset bearing and on the bottom of the front fork respectively. They both have a taper and a notch to them, as you can see. And when we tighten up the headset center stem screw later, it will add preload to the bearings and take up the slack. Once that's done, have a friend help you lift the bike or insert the fork into the frame, since it's much easier than struggling on your own. Before the front fork's upper cross brace goes on, check that the wires and brake cables are sitting between the bike frame and shock shaft. Otherwise they'll be hanging out around the outside of the front fork, and that's not what you want. Now slide the upper bearing cover back onto the fork, making sure there's no visible gap before adding a spacer, then the upper support, which will slide back into position with some gentle encouragement. When everything's in place, it's time to tighten up those screws, which you can do with the help of a power drill, but you should always apply the final touch using a handheld Allen wrench, just so you can feel how secure it is. Next, go ahead and put the spacers back on and reconnect the headset. If the headset seems tight, a gentle tap or two with the Mr. Mallet should put it in its place. Now you can position the handlebar, securing it in place with the appropriate bracket. Before you tighten up the screws though, install the bike's horn in the center as shown. Once that's in place, then you can secure the handlebar to the headset, making sure that the gaps on the top and bottom parts of the headset remain even as you tighten it. You can test the alignment and orientation of your handlebar by hopping on the bike and seeing if it's central or not. If it isn't, loosen the screws and make the necessary adjustments until everything is looking ship-shape, or bike shape. Only when you're 100% satisfied with the straightness of the handlebar should you tighten up the top screw and the side screws. Remember, tighten the top screw first to set the bearing preload we talked about earlier. Then tighten the headset side screws to lock that preload in place. Installation of the front light is relatively straightforward, requiring an Allen key to remove the screws before placing the light in its mount and using the same Allen key to replace and tighten those screws. You can adjust the tilt of the light later on as required. And don't forget to connect the leads if you actually want it to work. Oh, and make sure your cables go through the inside of the front fork, lest you want to spend lots of time rewiring your bike after you've already installed everything. The cable for the front brake caliper is fixed into position with the aid of this screw, situated on the front fork. Go ahead and do that before you install the front wheel. You'll need to remove the front crossbar using a 6mm Allen key as well. The bar may need a bit of persuasion from our good old Mr. Mallet, but whatever you do, don't be heavy-handed. With some more assistance from a human friend, if possible, raise the bike and move the front wheel into position before sliding the crossbar back through, giving it another light tap as required to make sure it's central and the bar is recessed on both sides. Insert and tighten up the side screws, followed by the bolts at the front. Front wheel installed. It's time for the front brake caliper. On many of the bikes during shipping, there'll be a clip that separates the brake pads, which you'll need to pull out before installation. Once you've done that, retrieve the bag screws you set aside earlier. These will be used to attach the caliper mount to the front fork, as shown. When the mount is in place, on goes the caliper, making sure there's just enough slack in the brake cable before tightening up the screws with a drill and Allen key. To unlock your next bike building achievement, you'll need to know your left from right as you screw in the pedals, using either the left or right hand threads on the corresponding sides. It's a 50-50 bet if you're unsure, but you'll soon know if it's not screwing them in properly. As with everything else, you'll need to tighten them up with the use of a tool after. And for this, we recommend a socket wrench. Pedals in place, it's time to locate your GPS unit next. It looks like this. Take a picture of the IMEI number on your phone, as you'll need it later. Then, pop open the case of the GPS module using a screwdriver, and insert your SIM card, making sure the device is in the off position before connecting the main power line. This is essential in order to make sure the GPS has a proper turn-on sequence. Once the main power has been connected, then you can flick the GPS switch into the on position. To activate the bike's electrical system, find the two large gray Anderson connectors and remove the safety plugs from them. Ensuring the polarity is correct, connect them and reinstall the power connector into the bike like so. If you hear a spark upon connection, don't panic. This is completely normal due to the high voltage. Make sure the yellow charge port connector is also connected, and now your GPS module should be flashing. Once the main power connector has been connected, then you can flick the GPS switch into the on position. You should now see the lights flashing on the GPS module, and you can bind it to the app. To link the GPS device, go to the TrackSolid Pro app, go to Add Device, type in the IMEI or scan the GPS barcode. It'll let you enter a device name, and once saved, the app will show you all the bikes you have registered and their locations on the map. Top tip: for best results, make sure to mount the GPS module using two-sided tape in a location where the top cover remains accessible or facing the sky. Before replacing your bike's side panels, try testing out your key fob. Pressing the lock button will result in a chirp, activating the alarm, so that if your bike is moved, a constant alarm will sound and the bike's rear hub motor will become locked. Pressing the unlock button deactivates the alarm, sparing the ears of anyone in the immediate vicinity. Should you have trouble finding your bike, you could press the panic button and your bike will let off a few chirps, letting you know where it is. And should you lose your key fob, you can use a spare key, which we send to you just in case. To activate your bike's 750cc color display, press down the power button on the handlebar and voila! Your brand new display will show you a range of stats, including your speed, battery voltage, and your current trip distance. After you've had a good play around and know that everything is working, it's time to put the side panels back on your bike. Be sure not to pinch any of the wires while replacing the panels. As a side note, these rubber grommets on the front fork are designed to stop the front fork from coming into contact with the side panel when fully locked to either side. Knowing this, you can make sure they're positioned correctly so that it's fit for a purpose. With your side panels locked back in place, all that's left is to make sure your tires are filled up with between 21 to 32 psi of air pressure. 28 psi is generally a good number to aim for. Tires pumped, the final step is to pump yourself up so that you're ready to hit the road. Alrighty, that's how to set up and configure a 3000 watt Enduro e-bike fresh out of the box. If you guys do have any questions when you're setting up your own bikes, you can always feel free to reach out to your assigned WhatsApp support group and we would be more than happy to help. I'm pretty excited to go see what this bike can do, so I'm going to get it charged up and I'll meet you guys on the trails.